Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. So tonight we're going to do a little bit of Warhammer content, and we're not talking about 40k. We're actually going ahead and looking at Warhammer, the fantasy side, even though technically the other one is fantasy, like science fiction. It still would be fantasy because there's fantasy aspects into it. I don't fucking know, man. People are fucking... The genres are weird. But yeah, we're gonna look at Thanquol, the Horned Rat's funny, silliest clown thing, fighting his toughest, hardest battle fights. And we're gonna go on ahead and take a look at that. So let's go ahead and check it out.
Warhammer has a lot of characters in it. Shocking, I know. Also surely shocking to you is that people tend to like some of these characters quite a bit.
I like the
myself,
rats.
of course, am partial to the Prince and Emperor of Reichland, Karl Franz,
I like
but
rats.
there's plenty of other characters that have cults of personalities around them as well. Just ask someone who's read the Night Lord's Omnibus. They'll scream at you about Talos for so long you'll think you've ended up in Whiterun by mistake.
So true.
Everyone will argue to you about why X character they like is actually the greatest fella to ever exist in Warhammer. It's just how it is. Even Iron Hands fans can somehow argue for hours about how Ferrus Manus is interesting. It doesn't matter how prominent a character actually is in these settings. They all have their rabid fans. But one stands above all of them. There can only be one character.
I wish I can make a fantasy setting with multiple characters and clans and make my own little rabid fan base of people. I mean, I'm kind of doing that now, except it's not different clans, it's different characters. And they're all fat-tittied waifu women because I'm a gooner. That's what I do. I goon. But yeah, no, we're gonna go. It's Warhammer itself is such a special fucking thing too, because holy shit, the amount of stories there are, the different types of storytelling they are. Like from what I'm hearing, everything that I've heard from the Space Marine sides, everybody's telling me that it's all fucking like propaganda on their behalf, and a lot of the times that the humans are actually not that like good at fighting or what. I don't fucking know what it is. There's a lot of bullshit on it. And again, I will agree though that if there is a good guy, even though there probably isn't, it's gonna be the humans, because I'm human, stupid.
In Warhammer that is truly the greatest of them all, and in this case, that title does not go to an Ultramarine. For this character, we must delve deeper. We have to enter into the layers of Skavendom to find him.
Oh,
for where else can we find the greatest character if not in the greatest faction? From wizards of boundless power to warriors of unparalleled might, to even Gotchick and Felix themselves, the mightiest duo to ever grace Warhammer, all have been equally unable to rid the world of our true hero. The one, the only, Grey Seer Thanquol.
Bro, the idea of the Skaven is so fucking great. I don't know. They're like goblins. They're rat goblins. They come in, they're really bad at teaming up. They try to only fight for themselves. They'll fucking kill them. They'll kill their own units if they don't fucking like do what they're told. And then on top of that, if they feel threatened enough, they'll just team up, actually get rid of the problem, and then go back to killing themselves. Because, you know, fucking Skaven, am I right? It's great. It's funny as hell. It's a funny faction. They're one of my favorite factions. I'm not gonna lie.
In him, you will find true bravery, courage, endless magical might strength, and only the finest of tactical strategic minds to ever be seen in the universe. Today, we talk about not just a silly rad man, but the silly rad man. But before we begin, allow me to take an educated guess. You either have or currently are using my videos to fall asleep. It's no worries, I do that with YouTube too. And if you'd like some phenomenal sleep aids, you could do no better than Manta Sleep, the sponsor of this video. Manta Sleep makes not just sleep masks, but the finest of sleep masks to ever grace this planet. When you pop one of these bad boys on, you're in for a world of comfort and easy sleep, and I can vouch for it personally. I have a few of their sleep masks, and as of late I've been using the weighted sleep mask. It's a nice bit of pressure that helps me relax and fall asleep. The premium feel means that even though it's weighted, it's not at all an uncomfortable sensation, and I can adjust it as I need. For those of you like myself whose head more closely resembles a bowling ball than what most people have for a skull, this is a huge plus. But that's by no means the only thing they have. The Silk Sleep Mask is one of the softest things ever. There's two variations of the Sound Mask if you like to listen to something as you fall asleep. Whatever your preference for sleep masks might be, Manta Sleep has one to suit your needs. If you'd like to get one of these bad boys, I've got just the thing for you. Using my link in the description and pinned comment and code Pancreas, you can get yourself 10% off your Manta Sleep order. Just click the link below and use code Pancreas for 10% off your order. Whether you're just taking a quick nap.
It says, in the old world on the tabletop, you used to be able to shoot onto your own Skaven slave units that were in melee within the enemy units And said slave units were only 3 points per model, so armies would have 1,000 to 1,000 or 2,000 point limits. That's crazy.
Returning in for the night, Mantis Sleep can make the experience all the better, so grab yourself one of their masks today for a more restful tonight. Now then, time to pay respects not only to Thanquol, but Bone Ripper and his thousands of identically named brothers. Thanquol's origins aren't completely known, but by virtue of him being a Grey Seer, we can draw from what we know of them to make some reasonably educated guesses. Whatever clan he once came from, he was born with gray fur and horns growing out of his head, and so from birth he was already destined to become a Grey Seer. Becoming an apprentice to an existing Grey Seer named Sleekit, he was a model apprentice to his liege, just as dutiful, studious, and loyal to Sleekit as any apprentice would be to their own Skaven master. To translate that, he was dutiful in trying to get his fellow apprentices killed and framed for things,
as a Skaven would, trying to get there, trying to be better than the other person. And even in fucking, apparently, even when you're just the guy that is following your master, you're absolutely going to kill your master if it makes you feel better.
Studious in all the ways he could potentially get his master killed so he could take his place.
Yep.
And of course, loyal enough that when his master was crushed to death, Thanquol stayed just long enough to watch him die and steal Sleekit's staff and amulet so he could become a Grey Seer instead.
Give me a second, I gotta let the cat out. She's yelling at me. I don't even know if you guys heard that. She like straight up was just like, wow, wow, like a whale, dude.
Naturally, yes, Thanquol played a part in his master's demise. He's a Grey Seer, of course he was involved in his master's death. His fellow apprentices were all done in on their own though, or at least without Thanquol's direct help. In between his origin and Gotchick and Felix, not too much happens, but at some point in his life he was picked up by Seer Lord Kritislik, the head of the Grey Seers and a member of the Council of 13. Thanquol was specifically chosen by the head of all Grey Seers to be his top guy, so you know his life is going to be fun to read about. Now this video is going to be a bit more of me yapping about all things Thanquol has done, because I just like talking about the funny rat more than anything, so how about we get into his first appearance? At first glance, the title of the book does not bode well for him, I must admit.
It's like thanking somebody, Thanquol, you know? That's such a crazy fucking name.
Skaven Slayer, a Gotchick and Felix book. Thanquol at this point was deemed to have enough importance to the Council of 13 and Kritislik to be given command of the Skaven invasion of the imperial city of Nuln. The head of the Empire's engineering and gunpowder production, Nuln would be a great city to take down.
You know, from the way that people describe the Skaven, it makes me think that the Skaven are just like the de facto fucking enemy unit. Like they are the threat, but then the more that I'm like looking at it, they're just really fucking dumb. And they always just kill themselves before they're even able to kill other people. So it's actually a really big surprise that there are just so many underground, to the point that if you even try to give them enough attention, they'll just kill you. Like straight up. That is insane. So I don't know if they're actually a real threat or they're just not a threat. It's like both. They're both at the same time, dude.
In any invasion of the Empire of Man. Thanquol was to lead the charge on this operation, and almost immediately he just couldn't help himself from being himself. Thanquol's initial plan to take over Nuln was in all honesty not a bad one. One of the heads of Nuln was, shall we say, not a fan of mutants even by Warhammer standards, but somehow in this insane man's mind, Skaven were okay to work with for a bit. They were outwardly bad, you see, whereas the insidious mutant lurks anywhere and should be dealt with first. This attitude led to him trusting Thanquol, a sentence that doesn't bode well for anyone. Thanquol's plan was to manipulate Fritz von Halstead, the individual in question, to eventually cause a civil war in the Empire by way of getting Karl Franz's brother-in-law killed. Fine plan, but unfortunately Gotchick and Felix tripped over it. At the time, they were working as sewer jacks and patrolling Nuln sewers, not because they were specifically looking for Thanquol, but because those two are in a perpetual state of having no money and needing odd jobs to get by. And eventually, they found Fritz speaking to a Skaven, eventually found out his identity, and tracked him down and killed him. Thanquol's part in this was to fight Felix, watch as Gotchick ripped his pet rat ogre in half with a single blow, and then wisely chose to be anywhere but where those two were at. But the Nuln saga continues, friends. Thanquol, as any good Skaven leader does, had underlings, most of the important ones from the various great clans of the Skaven. Molder, Scryer, all the big hits. These underlings started coming up with plans to take over Nuln, which would be great for anyone else, but for a Skaven leader, that's basically the end of the world. Those underlings will get the credit and alert the Council of 13 that Thanquol doesn't deserve to be in charge anymore. So
I don't understand why they just can't work together as a normal unit. It's just every fucking time, every few fucking, like, They could be real threats if they could just stop bashing each other over the heads and stabbing each other in the back for 5 minutes. Bro, it's so fucking stupid. They could have been what humans are in 40K if they just did something that sides kill each other. Like, what the fuck?
Thanquol starts mailing Gotrek and Felix letters telling them about every single plan the Skaven are going to be working towards, because it can't be the Skaven that succeed, it has to be him, Greyseer Thanquol, to take down Nuln. And because it's Gotrek and Felix, all of these plans are dealt with, some a bit less successfully than others, but nothing works well enough for the Skaven to take down Nuln. Clan Pestilence is going to spread some diseases with a super plague, better send a letter to the Dwarf and the Manling to go stop them. Clan Scryer is going to steal the steam tank, tell the dynamic duo to kill every rat involved. The best part of all of this is that Gotrek and Felix take a single look at these letters and go, a rat wrote this. This was clearly a Skaven that handed that to you. But they just shrug and listen anyways, because it keeps working out. From Thanquol's perspective, this is a genius act to deal with treacherous underlings and come out on top. But from theirs, it's just like, well, I guess this one rat really doesn't like the others. Might as well keep doing what he says. Eventually, he starts cluing in on the fact that these two are perhaps going to cause him some trouble down the line, and sends Clan Eshin assassins to kill him. Doesn't work. The Skaven...
He was succeeding. He was getting the people that he didn't want to basically like overthrow him, to be like, ah, dude, can you kill these people? Can you kill these people? Can you kill these people? And then he himself was just like, oh fuck, what if they kill me? And then he's fucking up. He's fucking up.
Slayer stories are in the first omnibus, and there's 6 of those things. Of course it doesn't work. After this, there's an event where all of Nuln's nobility are together at a ball. The perfect time to strike. Nuln is invaded by the Skaven, everything is in chaos, and then Thanquol still cocks it up by not realizing he's in a Gotrek and Felix book. He also decided to ass blast his chief assassin underling to Kingdom Come. Why did he do this? It wasn't much a fan of him, basically. Invasion foiled because Gotrek and Felix rallied the people and then kicked him out. Thanquol scurries away to plot another day. Now this was an embarrassing defeat for Thanquol, and it lost him quite a bit of money and power, and he knew if he returned to Skavenblight, the Council of 13 would ask him what the hell went wrong, and then probably kill him. So he gathered what money he had left and instead started investigating a dwarf outpost in the middle of nowhere, correctly figuring out that they were surely up to something over there. He did a bit of spying and almost shit himself because he saw the blonde man that had caused him so much trouble and knew his angry short redhead buddy wasn't far behind. So he throws his new forces at the outpost in a semi-panic, which fails, although there is very one sad death scene for a dwarf who was stationed as a guard only to be poisoned to death as he alerts everyone the Skaven are here now. Thanquol's army ends up being routed, but not before he learns that the dwarfs had built themselves a war zeppelin. So he has his little ratty Skaven underling Lurk snitch.
You know, if I didn't like them so much, if I fucking liked them more, it would probably make me even madder at the fact that they're just making plans that go well for a bit just to end in terror because they themselves just can't fucking just function for just a little bit. Just think for a second, because it's just paranoia. They're just enveloped by paranoia every damn second of their lives. And I can see how frustrating it is for a Skaven fan to be like, oh fuck man, come on, just a little bit, just work together, please. And then just to be like, oh, well, they just fucking killed the main guy. Oh, he's the new main guy? Ah, fuck.
Tongue that he's been abusing and having work as a spy hitch a ride on the damn thing. Since he can see through this poor rat's eyes, he's constantly badgering him on updates on where the Thunder Barge is going. Lurk, who's trying to Skyrim stealth his way around a dwarf Thunder Barge without getting caught, is constantly trying to hide not only his physical presence, but Thanquol's magical communications with him. At one point, he was forced to hide on the outside of the moving Zeppelin, while a chaos storm was happening outside. The poor dude was basically mutated into becoming a rat ogre because his boss wouldn't let him go home when his shift said he was supposed to be done. And when Thanquol meets back up with him, it's right before Gotrek and Felix are about to head to the Chaos Waste themselves. Thanquol, who had gathered another army of underlings courtesy of Clan Molder to replace the last one that died under his command, ambushed where the Thunder Barge was briefly going to stop and resupply, as well as capturing Max Schreiber and Ulrika Magneva, two of Gotrek and Felix's good friends, to put it one way. When the main two fellas showed up alongside Snorri and Malachi, they all started fighting. Thanquol is himself, so of course Max and Ulrika were freed, and then Max and Thanquol started magically wrestling over the airship. And while I haven't really focused much on it, I need you to understand that Thanquol is an absurdly powerful wizard when he's at the top of his game, especially after he's chowed down on Warpstone.
You kind of realize that, yeah, they could be very powerful, but they're also just very done. Absolutely not for me. I love them because they are so stupid and funny, and they're always losing like some Saturday morning cartoon villain from the 80s. That's hilarious. But also, like, imagine like a Skaven fan that wants the Skaven to win. Imagine how pissed they would be. Imagine how pissed they would be just to see that they could see what the Skaven can do, and they're just like, why can't they? Just why? Like, holy shit.
He can blast damn near anyone out of his way, even if he might need a bit of a breather afterward. So were it not for Lurk suddenly surprising him and Snorri and Godric approaching him to disrupt his focus, he probably would have ripped the finest piece of dwarf engineering out of the sky. Even when Max joined the fight, the human wizard noted that Thanquol was absurdly powerful and he needed all of his focus to win. Eventually, though, Thanquol was beaten, and he fled this encounter with a teleporting spell after he realized that Godric was about 10 feet from him with murder in his eyes. Thanquol reappeared back in reality alone some distance away and realized that once again every one of his underlings, and for that matter all of his money, was gone, and he had no idea how to get back to Skavenblight. Lurk showed up, which wasn't really good news for Thanquol, because he was about as happy as anyone could be towards the person who made them sit outside in a rainstorm from hell. But Thanquol threatens to—
That's so sad. Bro is literally forced himself to fucking be in a rainstorm just because he didn't even want his fucking— the guy who was fucking his commander to even know where he was, because why the fuck would you, honestly?
blast him with magic. So instead of fighting, they wander around, discover that a massive chaos horde is invading from the north because it's Warhammer and that just happens sometimes, and they end up in Clan Mulder territory. Lurk proceeds to go and start a revolution in Hell Pit by claiming he's the Horned Rat's son or some shit, while Thanquol gets thrown in jail because one of his underlings from Nuln survived and wasn't terribly happy with him. Thanquol's trying to desperately explain that chaos is coming, everyone, and the dude he's talking to is just like, yes, how very intriguing. Have you considered we don't care and I hate you? But Thanquol is Thanquol, and every god in the universe is smiling down on him because he's the funny little rat guy, so of course he has a free ticket out of this problem too. Because Thanquol has a direct magical connection to Lurk that lets him know where he is.
Yeah, I think it's just narrative at this point. I legit think that her survival is because of narrative and not because not because of story. Well, I mean, sure, there are people like that, but most Skaven players laugh at the idea of a meta for the faction, or even being the ones to have high win rates on tabletop. We play the dumb rats because they're fun to play and can do funny dumb shit on the tabletop. Also, so many models to collect and paint. That's crazy. That is an interesting part. Hi, Azura. How are you doing? Oh my god, bro. Like, the like actual god might actually like this guy. In this case, I think it's not the gods, it's our god that likes him, because holy fuck, this guy is cartoonishly fucking getting out of things.
And what he's doing, Lurk's slave revolt is completely halted, and Thanquol has once again gotten himself back into a stable-ish position. Thanquol is then given command of another army, and for once, this actually goes well. While Godric and Felix were defending the city of Prague, Thanquol was just kind of randomly appearing throughout the book. Towards the end, he fights part of the same horde Godric and Felix were, and in his own words, despite not even outnumbering the enemy because there were only 4 Skaven for every 1 Chaos Warrior, victory was achieved. And props to him because, yeah, he just won the fight. There wasn't much going on with it. It was a side story in the main Godric and Felix book that amounted to a bunch of rats jumping Chaos Warriors who thought they were going to go fight someone else. But hey, a win is a win, and Thanquol is ready to enjoy some rewards for a resounding Skaven victory. Oh,
that's really funny to think about too, because Skaven kind of play like how regular rats are. If you get like enough of them, they'll definitely fucking surround you and bite at you until you die. In this case, it's just that you have so many rats that at that point you're just playing a war of attrition to the point that you die because you just don't have enough resources to deal with that many fucking rats.
And before I move on to his own books, at one point in the Godric and Felix books, Thanquol is using a far squeaker, basically Skaven Skype. It blew up in his face. This was an assassination attempt. This was also the singular time something went wrong in Thanquol's life that he didn't blame on sabotage by other people. It's peak. This rat is peak. We've reached the pinnacle of fictional characters right here.
fuck me, are you
So
kidding
anyways,
me?
we cut to the events of his own books, and immediately he is being kidnapped by other Skaven. And the best part of this is, the book doesn't begin with him even conscious. He is dreaming of himself achieving ultimate power, only to be thwarted by Godric and Felix. Those two are literally in his nightmares. He spent such a mass amount of time thinking about that, even this relatively early into their story and his own. When he wakes up, he's tied to a pole being carried by other rats, and immediately, and I mean immediately, he starts blaming other people for his predicament. Sabotage by his underlings, incompetence by his underlings, the hated Godric and Felix things that keep ruining his plans. Nothing is ever his fault, of course. He's taken to the Council of 13, and when he meets with them, instead of congratulating him on defeating a random chaos army, they're like, hey buddy, where—
like, why would it be this motherfucker's fault, honestly? I mean, I would do the same thing. I'd blame everybody around me besides the actual person that there is to blame, honestly. Like, holy shit, dude. Oh my god, is that— did you paint a fucking Thanquol fucking— Did you paint a Thanquol model? With his giant rat ogre? Yeah, that's yours? Dude, no fucking way. That's crazy. You got a fucking Thanquol with a giant ogre. That's crazy. If you want to see the Thanquol and Bone Ripper model, I posted one of them, but that's cool as fuck. Custom base and everything. That's cool as fuck.
There's the Zeppelin. Then they drop him in a hole which he fears is the, quote, maze of inescapable death. But thankfully no, he finds out it's just the maze of merciless penance, which in theory you can survive. Also, of course the Skaven have things like that. Why wouldn't they have something called the Maze of Inescapable Death? Since he made it through the maze, Thanquol's restored to something—
What the fuck? How? How do you just have that? How do you just have the Maze of Inescapable Death? That's just what they have. These guys are a literal fantasy cartoon. What the fuck do you mean they just have something called that? That's like fucking going up to your cartoon as drug dealer and he sells you something that's called "You will never wake up from this." Like, what? Oh, and he's thankful that that's not the one they threw him in. Oh, they just threw him in on the other one called something fucking Deadly Penance or some shit like that.
resembling a position of power, and is told to go snoop around Under Altdorf, the Skaven Undercity that's of course Under Altdorf. The council doesn't think those Skaven Under Altdorf and Under Altdorf are quite as loyal as they should be. Plus there's an artifact of incredible power that's recently been uncovered there, and the Council of 13 wants it. So he goes to Under Altdorf, but not before he gets some chances to be himself for a bit, aka an asshole. For example, the Skaven have a single crop they grow called black corn. It's corn that tastes like rat shit, but by virtue of being food that isn't the corpse of another Skaven, having some is a sign of wealth. Thanquol is a picky eater, so he tosses some away to show how wealthy he is and to have other Skaven be jealous of him. On the ship that'll take him to Under Altdorf, he also kicks the Skaven boat captain in the face, who then starts beating his underlings and telling them to do better jobs, and the entire exchange ends with the crew of the ship Thanquol is on randomly whipping slaves because they feel slighted. Skaven society truly is a marvel of social engineering. As the book goes on, Thanquol finds more information about the artifact he's after, called the Wormstone because it makes weird worm things that aren't even technically alive. If a human touches it, they become violently ill until they dissolve into sludge. If a Skaven touches it, there is no ill period. They just die and make more worms. Now's a good time to mention something about Thanquol.
Bro, how, like, why not just do, why not think of, like, the fucking silliest shit? Why not think of the most silliest shit, put it in a world, and just keep adding super stupid shit, and then just make your own magical world of fantasy where the stone of deworming fucking turns you into a worm, where the blood-soaked grimoire of kidney stone just absolutely makes your kidneys into stone golems and shit like that. Like, why the fuck? This is what this sounds like they did. It just sounds like they just grabbed a bunch of shit. They're just like, dude, that sounds crazy. I'd do the same shit. I'm not gonna lie. I would too. I'll tell you right now. I'll give you the blood grimoire of biomancy. And one of the spells you find is the kidney stone golem. And all it does is that it manifests a kidney stone inside of you. that slowly grows and rips out of you and creates a tiny, like, dwarf-sized golem of, like, salt or something like that, and it is now your familiar or something like that. Why the fuck not, you know? That's what it feels like.
In his books. They're horror stories. For pretty much everyone that isn't a Skaven, Thanquol's books are an unrelenting march of terror as people wonder what is happening, how to stop it, realizing there's a dastardly Skaven ploy, or that the Skaven are even real in some cases. Then we cut back to our rat, and it's right back to the eternal circus that is Thanquol's life. It's hard to put into words how utterly horrifying it is to be in one of his books if you aren't Thanquol. And the main antagonist of Grey Seer, because calling anyone but Thanquol the bad guy is woefully incorrect, proves this in many ways. There exists the Shadow Wizard and
he has a dead cat on his hip? Why? What does it do?
an Altdorf known as Jeremiah Scrivener. He's a secretive protector of Altdorf, with a vast range of contacts and underlings from all walks of life, be they criminal, city watchmen, and even some dwarfs. The dude's so intimidating that it's like a ghost when he walks in a room. People he's near can't see him if he doesn't expressly allow them to. They only feel a dark and foreboding presence. He makes the room he enters grow chill, ice starts creeping up on the mirrors,
rats, but they're not afraid of no cat pussy.
And of course, as a shadow wizard, he can manipulate shadows as he likes. The dude is so powerful that he semi-regularly astral projects to talk to Slann. He knows his stuff. And aside from being terrifying to the human characters of Grey Seer, the few times he's relatively open about what threats they face, he's talking about a threat that can completely destroy Altdorf. This unending tide of vermin beneath the city, led by a mastermind rat, hatching a plot that can destroy all of it. And worst of all, he's right, because the Skaven eventually decide to use the Wormstone to poison all of Altdorf's water supply in the most horrific way possible. The entire book for the human characters is an absolute...
Holy fuck. Imagine one day you're just like enjoying your day, and you get thirsty, and you just take a drink of water, and you get violently ill, and then turn violently into worms because the Skaven thought it was a fun idea to poison your water. Like, fuck me.
Nightmare, and as the human characters find various people afflicted by the Wormstone's plague, as well as encounter the Skaven, you can see just why people are utterly terrified of the Ratmen. Then we cut back to Thanquol, and it's just a sequence of him being an asshole, or a traitor, or both. He meets the ruler of Under Altdorf, who reveals he wants to become ruler of all Skavendom, whereupon Thanquol decides this treacherous act must be stopped. It should be Thanquol who uses the Wormstone to become powerful in the eyes of the Council of 13, or even take it over himself. And then he does a line of Warpstone because the man's heavily addicted to it. He does Warp Snuff sometimes too, which I'm pretty sure is just crack. I know Warpstone is already pretty...
At this point, it might as well just be, it's crack stones and crack is what they're on. Crack stones and crack. That's my fantasy world. It's not Warpstone, it's just crack. Crack stones and crack. You just find it in crevices of random areas. They're made from the boils of golems that fall off, you know, like a golem STD, you know? They just shed them off of their genitalia, and now they're called crack. And then they're crack stones, and then you crush them up and you stiff them, and you get fucking high off of it, and that's called just crack powder. All of it too is just rock golem STDs.
Similar to Coke, but Warp Snuff is like that, but it doesn't boost your powers. Grey Seer is probably my least favorite of the three books, so I won't spend too much time on it, but please do not take that to mean it's any lesser of a read. That'd be like saying out of these 3 gold bars, this one's the smallest, so it's completely worthless. As the book progresses, Thanquol makes about 50 different alliances through begging, lying, promising to backstab someone else, and then actually backstabbing someone else before repeating. There is also, at one point, another Bone Ripper involved. This one has 3 arms and is supposedly the largest one yet. It dies, because of course it does. It does basically kill this monstrous clan pestilence diseased rat creature thing before it can get Thanquol though, which Thanquol does appreciate. In fact, the only things I think he ever has any semblance of positive, genuine emotions towards are his various rat ogres that he always immediately names Bone Ripper. Doesn't stop him from hitting them or berating them, of course, it just means that when they do something nice, he might actually seem
Are they Bone Whipper? Are they okay? It's a lol. And Warpstone is also moon rocks. Yes, those green moons in the sky are made of solidified chaos energy that is also Skaven coke. Honestly, I'm not even fucking surprised. And also, are they bone rippers? Or are they are their names bone rippers? Because at this point, I think he just really likes the name. So he just calls them Bone Ripper. But at the same time, it's making it seem like anytime he has a giant rat ogre, their title is Bone Ripper, but it's also their fucking name. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Appreciative. Eventually, we come to a climactic battle where Thanquol is fighting his rival Skaven, who is incidentally Lord Skrulk, but even this early on, anyone who isn't Thanquol is completely tertiary to Thanquol and Thanquol's plans, respectively. All the Skaven involved are also fighting Jeremiah Scrivener and his ragtag army. Thanquol had dueled with him on several occasions throughout the book, and the entire time it was from the Shadowmancer's perspective. He's watching this rat counter almost every trick he has, where even though he mostly has the upper hand, the Grey Seer is clearly a dangerous foe. Then we cut back to Thanquol, and it's back to being a comedy. He's chewing on Warpstone both for the power and the comfort throughout the fight, and also whenever he's on Warpstone, as an aside, he briefly becomes even more of a megalomaniac before he reins himself in a bit. This manifests throughout the entire series, and in this case it leads to him promising to kill Scrivener, Skrulk, all of Under Altdorf, all of Altdorf. If Thanquol is railing a line, he's ready to fight the entire planet. In this book, he's also the Skaven version of Batman, because he bought a bunch of good luck charms, magic scrolls, and magical amulets that maybe half of which are actually magical and he didn't just get scammed. He loses the final fight of the book, but he whips out a teleportation scroll and just dips. And the way the book ends truly, oh good lord is it funny. Thanquol teleports out with barely a clue where he is, and he's surrounded by cats for some reason. Obviously, not doing great after everything that had just happened. But just then, some fat old lady comes in, sees him, and faints in terror. And I swear to you, I'm not just being mean when I say that. Thanquol calls her one of the plumpest examples of humans he's ever seen. The final sentences of the book are him trying to come up with a lie for the Council of 13 as to why he couldn't retrieve the Wormstone, and him praising the Horned Rat for gifting him such a bountiful meal in the form of that soon-to-be very dead old lady. Some fantasy books end with the hero rescuing the princess and saving
He calls her a plump example of humankind. Thanks his god that he got food and proceeds to eat the old lady. This guy's fucking stupid. What the fuck?
the day. Others end with the promise of hope on the horizon, even if much work needs to be done to reach it. Warhammer Fantasy books end with a rat mad eating a fat lady after he does drugs. Best series by far. So Thanquol's doing a bit better now after that book. Not by too much, but he is doing better. Manages to avoid being executed by the Lords of Decay too, even if Clan Eshin's lords clearly had plans for him. He decides to take himself on a walk through Skavenblight and even buys himself another Bone Ripper. All in all, he's doing pretty good. Then a bunch of garbage Skaven assassins try to kill him, the real competent one tries to poison him, and then he tries to get Thanquol killed via Skaven Crowd Crush. It was funny because when he saw the three—
Bro, I am so surprised. I'm like listening to all this, and the only thing that's ringing out to me is I am fucking surprised by miles that Magic the Gathering hasn't even made like a Warhammer fantasy line of cards, because they already have Rat Kindred decks. I wanted to make a Rat Kindred deck, and now that I'm hearing about the Skaven, why fucking haven't they? That sounds incredible. I would love to have a commander deck of a Skaven, just Rat Kindred, you know?
Goober assassins walking towards him, he was in utter disbelief. He looked at them and was in complete shock at how bad they were at their job, visibly approaching him wearing what looked like assassin garb and drawing knives. Then the actual assassins started fighting, and he understood what was happening then. Him and Bone Ripper number 4, I think we're on 4 now, drive off these assailants, and Thanquol scuttles away to the room he's renting.
Yeah, we have Rat Kindred. I have a bunch of rats. I have the Year of the Rat cards from that came out like a while ago with hold on, let me see which ones I have currently for Year of the Rat. I have them right now. Let me see. A bunch of my expensive black cards. Let's see. I have let me see. They're right. I was gonna do a Fairy Kindred too, but I couldn't find the right cards I wanted to do. I have Skull Snatcher. I have Throat Slitter. I have Ink Eyes, Servant of Oni. I have Maronar, Ink Eyes, Servant of Oni, the inked version. Pack Rat, Rat Colonies, and I'm pretty sure I have another rat. No, those are the only rats I have. So I do have rats. I was gonna make a Rat Kindred deck. I don't have the rats I want to use in the Rat Kindred, but I have rats, and I know there's Rat Kindred because a lot of them do use rats. There's rats that get from medicine and whatnot, and it is great. But what I want is Skaven. I want Skaven rats in the game. That would be so fucking cool.
Then he gets jumped by Deathmaster Sniksh, who cuts down Bone Ripper in seconds and brings him to Nightlord Sneak, Grandmaster of Clan Eshin. Our absurd rat protagonist should by all reason and logic be dead, but for reasons I simply cannot comprehend, people keep trying to use Thanquol for some reason. His track record is noticeably failure after failure by this point, but if I had to guess, it's both because he makes an easy fall guy, and when you want a wizard on the cheap, threatening Thanquol is a good way to go about that. Thanquol is now involved in a Clan Eshin scheme to assassinate a prophet of Sotek, whose name I'm not even going to pretend to try and say. It's a red-crested skink, it isn't the goober you probably only know for having a bad Total Warhammer campaign, and he resides in a city only relatively recently being re-inhabited by the Lizardmen after Clan Pestilence made it all icky. For a brief cut into what the non-Skaven characters will be doing in this book, it is as follows. The human characters, and briefly an elf, are going through hell as they're marooned in Lustria and subjected to all the hells of this continent, fighting both the jungle itself and the Lizardmen inside. For a Slan, the entire book was orchestrated by him as he tries to figure out if the cult of Sotek the Skinks have is actually a good thing or not, since the Slan really aren't sure on if Sotek is a good or a bad thing for the Great Plan. All the suffering of everyone involved in this book is the Slan's fault, because for some reason they can't determine if the god of their minions that despises the Skaven is a force for good or not. Anyways, back to the Rat Man. Thanquol is immediately upset to find out he's not the one in charge of the expedition, and almost immediately after learning this, begins devising ways to get the true leaders killed. Naturally, none of these methods he comes up with are how it happens, because Thanquol's an idiot. Once the Skaven themselves arrive in Lustria, they start scouting out how to find the Temple of the Serpent and Sotek's prophet. Of course, first a few dozen of them are eaten alive by sharks, but that's hardly worth mentioning. Oh no, a Skaven died. Grass is green and I need
They're so fucking like, I truly believe that Skaven don't believe in individuality, and the ones that do are the ones who become leaders no matter what. Like, if you're a Skaven, if you're born Skaven, and you all of a sudden believe in your own individuality, you become like a general Skaven. Other than that, you're just one of the rest of them who is probably gonna die, and it's not even gonna be a surprise.
What a big reveal. What is worth mentioning is something that was brought up by the human and elf characters during one of the segments. In the southern tip of Lustria is a high elf settlement they briefly plan to escape to. In between them and that settlement lies the Vampire Coast. Now for the humans, because by the time they do anything productive, the elf has been murdered by skinks, this is not an issue. For the Skaven and Thanquol, this is an issue. Because throughout their bumbling in the swamps, they trip over a particular bit of swamp infested with zombies that start eating them. Thanquol switches rapidly back and forth between cowardice and actually fighting before he's jumped by the same first Skaven assassin from earlier. This assassin is actually one of his underlings from Skaven Slayer who wanted revenge for Thanquol getting him and his fellows killed and humiliated. And the thing is, this whole time Thanquol's putting in the work. He basically goes full red rage and brutalizes a bunch of zombies, and he manages to bash the assassin in the face and cause them to be dragged down by the zombies. Thanquol, when he locks in, is apparently an incredibly deadly melee combatant. He also has one of my favorite moments ever. When the assassin jumped him in the swamp, he has a brief moment of contemplation afterwards and goes, "Wait a minute, I know exactly who the assassin is and who's trying to kill me," and then proceeds to blame entirely the wrong Skaven for this. He goes insane in melee again, too. As everyone gets to the Temple of Sotek over the story's course, there's naturally both lizardmen and spawning pools to make more of them. Thanquol eventually captures the human characters to allow him entrance into the temple, because he needs a human to destroy the anti-Skaven wards around it. They get in.
How does he go from like... It's a cartoon. It's a legit cartoon how he's managed to escape so many things, and I really hope that one day they actually do. You know what? Why don't they have a movie about this guy? Like, not even just like one that focuses on like the outside, like the humans and whatnot. No, I want it specifically focused on this fucking idiot. Because holy shit, has he fucking gotten into some fucking predicaments after all this. It is insane.
And discover that there's a massive, sacred snake at the center of the temple. Thanquol ends up being vaguely involved in getting the other Skaven killed, because while as Skaven they can plan backstabs with the best of them, Thanquol might as well have the divine protection from the horned rat, and no one can really hurt him. Eventually it comes down to Thanquol and one of the humans who had been forced into the temple by Thanquol. He saw the human surrounded by lizardmen, realized he was going to be next if the human died, and went utterly ballistic. He slaughtered dozens of skinks in melee combat while Bone Ripper was fighting a Croxagore. There's a new Bone Ripper, by the way. It was a rat ogre one of the previous leaders owned until Thanquol decided it was his now. There was a lot of threatening and blackmail involved. I wouldn't worry about the specifics of how he acquired this one. It's not long for the world. Once that was dealt with, Thanquol and the human began searching for another human, because Thanquol knew he needed the first human as insurance, and so did the human in question. They eventually find said captured human, and Thanquol immediately makes a break for it. The human he was with shoots the Prophet of Sotek because the skink was about to do that Indiana Jones rip your heart out of your chest move on his kind of girlfriend, and Thanquol just booked it. The human he was traveling with and his kind of girlfriend go do their own thing. Does not end well, spoiler alert, but Thanquol and Bone Ripper, oh, this pair isn't done, because they begin tracking the assassin who had survived the zombie mud pit back to the ship that carried them there.
God.
Surprisingly, they track him back to the ship, and not only did the assassin not sail away already, but he was already dead. On the downside, though, he was dead because those zombies from earlier boarded the ship and killed the assassin. Thanquol.
So he just got lucky again.
Workshop used to be incredibly problematic.
After looking at this, oh, that's interesting.
Short into the Rec React channel for you to look at after this.
I'll take a look at it. But that's crazy. No, dude, this is... So he goes to hunt down the assassin, and the assassin's already dead due to the fucking zombies that he basically fucking threw him at. So this guy just, again, got lucky.
If he gets lucky again, then it's still like Nathan Drake.
At this point, no, this is more times I've seen this man get lucky. He escapes an area, finds a fat lady, and immediately fucking goes. He is so lucky that he thanks the gods and then eats the fat lady after smoking crack. Like,
Bone Ripper go ham for a bit once again before Thanquol realizes, uh-oh, I'm using warp fire magic, and one of those zombies he cooked had just fallen into the ammunition storage of the ship. So Thanquol dives off the ship onto a raft into the water, and it takes just long enough for him to feel stupid about doing so before the powder storage goes off and the entire ship blows up. Thanquol survives if a bit shaken up, and Bone Ripper actually makes it out as well. The rat ogre claws his way onto the raft Thanquol's on, to which Thanquol in his mind starts calling Bone Ripper a useless idiot.
Wow.
This Warhammer army was removed for being racist. These are
Yeah. It was bad back in the day.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't even want to acknowledge if I ever did something like that. Holy shit. Like, I'd just fucking ignore it for the rest of my life. Anybody brings it up, I'm gonna be like, I don't fucking know what you're talking about, you fucking weirdo. That's bad.
For daring to claw his way to safety near his master. And then, much like the Grinch, Thanquol got an idea. A terrible, awful idea. The raft Thanquol was on had water, but not much food. Bone Ripper number whatever we're on was basically dead and already at least a little bit cooked. So the last we see of Thanquol's point of view in this book is him once again thanking the Horned Rat for providing him food as he proceeds to begin getting ready to eat his pet. This is now the—
Oh my fucking god. How has this happened? How is he just rewarded for losing? How is he rewarded for losing?
the second book in a row where Thanquol's finished it by eating a living creature. The rest of this book is full of amazing little moments too. Like I mentioned earlier, Thanquol didn't buy or was gifted this Bone Ripper like he normally was. It was initially a bodyguard for one of the other Skaven leaders of the expedition. Thanquol spends a lot of time up to a certain point complaining that a real Skaven wizard doesn't need something as pathetic as a rat ogre bodyguard to be safe and look tough. But then the singular moment he gets to be in charge, he immediately commandeers the Rat Ogre and renames it Bone Ripper. This kind of thing is
That's
constant
fucking
too.
wild.
He will regularly lambast other people for things he says are wrong and he dislikes, but the nanosecond things go in his favor, everything he complains about is suddenly perfectly valid. The concept of shame has never entered Thanquol's mind, and I'm glad. I don't want him to ever feel shame.
I don't think these rats don't even know what shame is. I'm gonna be honest with you, and that's one of the main reasons why they just do what they do at this point. I'm gonna be 100 with you.
If he felt shame, I'm pretty sure he'd melt. The pinnacle, though, isn't from Thanquol's point of view. It's from the Slann who started this mess. At least,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think fantasy creatures should not be able to be understood by humans. They shouldn't have the same emotions as people. I mean, unless you're trying to make like elves or something, I feel like those are fine to do that with. But a lot of like monstrous races should definitely not be in that kind of capacity to feel that kind of empathy, to have the same kind of philosophy as others. And if people try to do that, then it should absolutely be punished. Kind of like the demons from Vriren, you know, when people are talking about how like, oh, they could be nice people and whatnot. When no, I mean they can't. It's already been explained that they can't, and any time that they do, it's kind of like ends terribly. And that's not what demons are there for. They're not supposed to be made to be human. They're not made to be that kind of like that kind of creation. And I feel like a lot of monsters should kind of feel that way. So like the idea that a monster can feel shame, right? Like I think if like again, like if the Skavens can feel shame, then at that point, then I feel like they just lose the reason to be Skaven at that point, you know?
some Slann view the world as mathematical equations. Magic, the people living in it, all part of one big mathematical equations of the old ones. This Slann in particular calls the various humans and rats low-variation fractals. They can change things and be a bit random, but you can figure them out for the most part pretty easily. Much like the rest of the Slann and Lizardmen, he also hates rats. Even more so than demons, they despise the Skaven. And at the end of the book, the Slann has Thanquol completely at his mercy without Thanquol ever knowing. As Thanquol was sailing away, he could have done any number of things to sink and kill him, but he concluded that leaving Thanquol alive would cause more harm to the Skaven than it would bring everyone else benefit to kill him. The Slann seeing the world as math just makes it so much more perfect. It literally did the math, consulted all the formulas, and the end result of the magical calculation was Thanquol equals more dead rats. I don't know if I should feel good about myself or
even the fucking characters that see logic saw Thanquol, and it was just like,
Why feel shame when nothing is ever your own fault? It's always some other rat that has schemed or plotted against you or sabotaged your plans.
honestly, yeah, that's the exact fucking philosophy I expect from these fucking things. And if it doesn't, then that's not a Skaven. I'm gonna be 100%. But like the idea that the only reason you're alive is because somebody thought that it would be the greatest way to kill your kind is fucking funny to me. What the fuck do you mean that this guy was just like, I did all the calculations and I figured that the only way to kill as many rats as possible is to leave this fucker alive.
not after reading that genuinely. Because if you ever want to feel confident, know that you surely aren't as pathetic and harmful to those around you that someone who considers you worse than demons would let you live. But on the other hand, that's one hell of an accomplishment. Imagine Doom Guy leaving a demon alive because it'll kill so many more demons alive than the one dead demon you get by killing it. That's legitimately impressive. That's a level of shit that no one can hope to aspire to.
Trash with cheese in it, Kappa.
So Thanquol
It'd be funny to like, you're like trying to kill rats yourself and you're just like, see this one rat that just decides that it's so bad at doing what it does, it kills the other rats around you, and your first thought is just to be like, oh yeah, we should probably keep that one alive because that one's probably gonna get more than me killing that rat. Jesus.
Doom is already off to a good start because it begins with the Slann from before talking to the Shadowmancer from the first book about how Thanquol is going to be a huge problem for a dwarf hold the wizard has an agent in. On the end of the dwarfs of this book, it's a mad dash to stop the Skaven invasion of the hold. A rather radical dwarf who's a pretty chill dude with respect for progress and tradition invents automatic machine gun turrets because we're going full steampunk this book, and it's overall good stuff, but we aren't here for them. We're here for the clown, and by God is Thanquol on form from the get-go. It begins with him him washing ashore into a real shithole of a settlement even by Skaven standards, but one under the thrall of a greater clan, so he can't just start evaporating people. He bullies himself into being in charge, kind of. He tries to secure passage out on a boat, kind of succeeds. Then the local Skaven warlord decides it'd be a good idea to jump Thanquol. Now at first, it's portrayed as a bit of a predicament, with a whole lot of rats ready to rob and kill our boy. Then the Skaven warlord makes a crucial mistake, because Thanquol is a PTSD-ridden little goober. The Skaven in charge rubs his thumb.
I'm starting to think that maybe it's not PTSD, but it's just him just doing shit at this point. Like, what the fuck do you mean?
Along his weapon's edge and draws a little bit of blood. It's a nothing action. It's at most a little idle tick the Skaven warlord apparently has. Unfortunately, another character who does the same thing before a fight is, of course, Gotrek Gerdison, and Thanquol very well remembers it, so he freaks out and evaporates the dude on the spot with magic. Some dwarf slaves break free, Thanquol starts braining people with his staff, the slaves start killing Skaven, Thanquol commandeers his new boat and heads to Skaven Blight. Now, have you ever read, like, poorly written fan fiction or something where the author's self-insert character meets all the established ones and everyone loves them because of Mary Sue stuff? Well, Thanquol is kind of like the inverse of that. He meets plenty of big-name Skaven characters, he's been around the block. He met Lord Skrulk in his first book, who tried to kill him. He met Deathmaster Snikch, who very easily could have killed him and only didn't do so because Clan Eshin could use him for their goals. And shortly into Thanquol's doom, we start meeting more characters. Thanquol has
Oh my fucking god, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? He's that character. He's just that character, dude. He is the reverse Mary Sue character, dude.
Learned by this point from the various attempts on his life, and once he's reacquired himself a bunch of new minions and bodyguards, he starts taking various back alleyways to get to where he's going.
He's like me. He is like me when I try to write a character. Just no one fucking likes that character. It thinks it's the most important thing around, but everybody fucking hates it, and everything goes wrong.
I can't fault him for his caution. Legitimately, Thanquol can be dangerously intelligent sometimes. It's like he's the uncanny valley of intelligence. If he were even the least bit smarter, he'd be the single most dangerous being in existence. Archaon wouldn't be the Everchosen, it'd be this rat. But he's missing those last few IQ points to clear the valley, so he slides back down into being the world's biggest idiot. Anyways, the alley plan doesn't work. Snikch shows up and kills all his servants and tells him to say nothing about his involvement in killing the prophet of Sotek. And God bless his little rat soul, in this moment Thanquol was just utterly confused. Not even in a how can I spin this—
That is such a true fucking statement. He is the Dr. Doofenshmirtz of the Warhammer place, because it explains that if he just actually locked in, he'd absolutely fucking be ruler. But he just doesn't. Same thing with Dr. Doofenshmirtz, man. If he just locked in, he'd be a crazy villain. But he just doesn't.
To my advantage and get out alive kind of way. He was just genuinely unable to understand why this should be kept a secret. He even says the words almost verbatim, but I did kill the prophet of Sotek, because like I said, we couldn't clear the uncanny idiot valley, so Thanquol really hit Snikch with, but I did have breakfast today. When Snikch leaves, Thanquol's bodyguards are all dead, and it turns out his servants actually lived. They just stole all his belongings during the fighting and dipped, and then he gets kidnapped again. Back to the Council of 13, back to being used by them for their own purposes. He was already being strong-armed by some other Skaven into assisting them assault the dwarf hold I'd mentioned earlier, and now the Council of 13 is telling him to keep doing that, but for their own schemes. And then, the party gets ambushed during transit to the hold, where Thanquol bravely trips a clan rat over and uses him as a human shield. He decides that won't actually work because the weapons firing at them are blowing cannonball-sized holes in Skaven, so he pushes the other rat forward and then scurries away. Turns out this latest ambush was orchestrated by none other than
Rat power armor? Do they have fucking rat power armor? This picture popped up and my first thought is just rat power armor.
Ikit Claw himself, who showed up with rats wearing power armor.
Oh my god, there's rat power armor. What the fuck? I did not think he was actually gonna say it. I did not think he was gonna say it, and he fucking said it. There is rat power armor. Why aren't the Skaven in 40k? Why aren't the Skaven in 40 fucking K? I am disappointed in Games Workshop.
At least
for
get
not
an
adding the
inverse
Skaven
Caiaphas
to
Cain moment. He scurries
40K.
back out of hiding, and all the assembled rats, even the scryer ambushers, look at him with awe and a little bit of dread. In his mind, it's because he thinks his legend has grown so much that all who see him bow in subservience. In actuality, it's because the scryer rats thought they lit him on fire, and it appeared like he just shrugged off the warpfire throwers. Neither of these things are true, but all of reality conspires to keep Thanquol around, so it's best to just roll with it. Thanquol immediately begins trying to showboat, only to be shut down at every turn. The Skaven earlier had at least given him a, quote, gift bribe in the form of the first Bone Ripper resurrected with the Scryer technology, which he naturally once again calls Bone Ripper. Thanquol, after the ambush,
I feel like he's just not creative. Like, he has to just not be creative enough to be able to think of another name. That or he really likes just calling it fucking Bone Ripper for some reason.
tried to pretend he told Bone Ripper to not harm the Scryer rats, only for Icketclaw to laugh and tell him this one has a shutdown valve that prevents it from hurting any members of Clan Scryer. Thanquol then proceeds to look increasingly stupid as he keeps trying to see what Icketclaw had hidden under a tarp. Turns out this was the beginning of a Doom Sphere, aka a Skaven nuke. It didn't work due to dwarf sabotage, but Icketclaw nearly blew up the entirety of both Skavendom and the dwarf holds for no other reason than he wanted to prove he could build the biggest bomb ever. To those of you who are about to say that's a very 40k orky thing to do, no, it is not. Orcs are very Skaven-y sometimes, is what that is. Now, I'm gonna jump to the end here for the most part, because as much as Thanquol is great in all of this book, it's more of what I've been talking about. But the ending is truly Thanquol at his best. Over the course of the book, a mummified paw of a terrible Skaven lord was found that could boost one's magical power, connection to the horned rat, and even summon a vermin lord. Thanquol, of course, gets his paws on this paw, and eventually it's used to summon a vermin lord into the mortal world. Or at least, he wanted to use it to do that. Thanquol, when he first got it, immediately felt something was off with it. Another Grey Seer he'd been forced to travel with used it to try and kill him, and Thanquol noted it made him even more insane than a Grey Seer having a power trip normally is. If Thanquol is noticing you've gone crazy, something is terribly wrong with whatever is doing that to you. So he mostly just stored it in his pocket and used it to make threats. Moving to the end of the book, Thanquol has...
So, dude, how the fuck are you so crazy? How crazy do you have to be to notice that something is just a little too crazy for you? Like, what the fuck? Like, you were so wrong, and then something pops up, and your first thought is just like, huh, something doesn't feel right.
ended up coming into contact with the Clan Moor's army led by Queek Headtaker, because at this point the Thanquol books are all an excuse to have well-known Skaven characters try to beat the shit out of our boy. Queek tries to kill him, and at one point when Thanquol says that's rat heresy, he tells Thanquol that Queek has given many heads, and so the Horned Rat won't mind him killing just one Grey Seer, which is both cool and terrifying to Thanquol. As Queek and Clan Moors begin assaulting the dwarf hold of the book one more time, Thanquol realizes he's almost certainly screwed between the dwarfs and Queek actively trying to kill him, so he uses the mummified Skaven paw to bring forth an ancient vermin lord born of the powerful seer of legend. Except it was a little bit tampered with. It summoned a greater demon alright, but instead of a vermin lord, it summoned motherfucking Skarbrand. Queek immediately runs away and gains an even greater hatred of Grey Seers than he already had, and Skarbrand just starts axing people left and right. The dwarfs and remaining Skaven go insane until the main dwarf character of the book can drop a statue of Alaya on Skarbrand's head, and even then Skarbrand still has time before his total banishment to basically tell Thanquol to give him a call whenever he wants.
So he knows something is wrong with it. He fucking knows there was something wrong with it, and he still uses it. What the fuck do you mean?
Skarbrand gave Thanquol a murderous booty call to reiterate that sentence. The book ends with Thanquol skittering away once again, offering prayers to both the Horned Rat and Khorne himself just to cover all his bases. But not before he blasted the dwarf who killed Skarbrand with magic to make himself feel better about the entire mess. And hey, on the bright side for something in these books, the rebuilt Bone Ripper lived. And since it was the reanimated corpse of the first one ever, technically this removes one dead Bone Ripper from the tally. Progress.
The idea that he actually, like, that's character development right there. The fact that he revived his old Bone Ripper and then just has it now, his first Bone Ripper. Well, it's not Bone Ripper. It's his first Rat Ogre. And he named it Bone Ripper.
Thanquol would go on to do his normal thing from here, of falling almost completely from grace only to somehow claw his way back to being entrusted with entire armies and stashes of wealth. How he does this, no one knows. He's simply too garbage to actually fail, because it loops around into him being unstoppable. In the Gotrek and Felix novel Elf Slayer, Thanquol decided he was done living in fear of the dynamic duo, so he tortured Felix's dad and information as to where he was and then killed him. Then he started sending waves of Skaven assassins after Gotrek and Felix. The latter thing was unsuccessful, as you could no doubt guess, but the former resulted in Felix eventually taking on almost dwarf levels of vengeance seeking against our rat boy. Thanquol hatched another plan, however. Learning that the duo was mucking about in the swamps of Marienburg, he managed to have them captured and brought aboard a Skaven submarine. Don't ask about that. The Skaven has submarines, I guess.
Wait, I thought it said Sky's fucking Thanquol's Doom. Yeah, Thanquol's Doom, and then we're going back into fucking swimming end times age. Do's and don'ts, Thanquol. Okay.
He finally has our heroes tied up, and does he revel in it? He starts bragging about all the torture he's going to inflict on them, how he's going to make them suffer as they made him suffer, 20 years of indignation at their hands and their hands alone. To Thanquol, this duel was ultimately responsible for every single thing that went wrong in his life, be that directly or as a result of them foiling prior plans of his. And right as he's really getting into it, Felix asks Thanquol who he is. And in that moment, you could hear the world come to a halt. You could hear the singular gear in Thanquol's brain screech to a stop as he tried to process what's going on. It was as if he couldn't decide if he heard Felix correctly, or if all the warpstone and warp snuff he'd taken over the years was finally taking its toll on his health. And then Felix double-checked with Gotrek to see if the dwarf knew who Thanquol was, only for Gotrek to respond with, "They all look the same to me, manling." And in that moment, Thanquol broke. Not for long.
I would. He made himself so self-important that when the one person he basically had interacted with the most when it came to foiling his own plans came to and said that he didn't even know who he was. And also that's racist to Skavens, man. They all do not look the same. I don't know who this guy is. They all look the same to me. I'd lose my shit too, I'm gonna be honest.
Because you can't keep him down. But he simply did not know how to process the fact that his most hated enemies, who to him were constantly foiling his schemes to spite him, had no idea who he was, and every time they did so, it was basically just a random encounter. The rest of him in that book is him zoning in on trying to capture the artifact Gotrek, Felix, and the other characters of the book were searching for, which not only fails, but the submarine sinks, Gotrek and Felix get away, and Thanquol has to survive the ocean's currents once more. He failed to kill his nemesis because he got greedy. But that was fine.
Wow.
This was just one more setback on Thanquol's inevitable rise to power. He may have lost a hand in the process, but between his magical amulet that regenerates wounds that he just has on him and his own power, even that was just a temporary problem. And out of all the end times lore there is, this goofball was one of the few who came out on top during it. Thanquol was apparently part of the Skaven forces that destroyed Tylea, and shockingly did well enough or took enough credit from others that he was able to reach the height of his wealth and political power. Seer Lord Kritislisk, I don't know how to say that man's name. Seer Lord Kritilisk, meanwhile, was accused of being a real goober by pretty much every Skaven of any worth. And then the Horned Rat himself showed up in the mortal world and ate the Seer Lord. The Skaven then unify, if only out of fear of also being eaten, and Thanquol for his part gets to finally invade and conquer the city of Nuln as he once did all those years ago. And then finally we were given our proof. Proof that the Divine truly do smile upon Thanquol, if only because they find him incredibly funny. Because as the new replacement Seer Lord, the most influential Skaven there is, the Horned Rat looked at every Grey Seer possible and then found Thanquol. And lo did the Horned Rat look at our man and say, You are my top guy. You are the funny one who will bring my word to the world. And then Thanquol was the new Seer Lord. The Vermin Lord Screech Vermin King gives Thanquol a new and improved Bone Ripper.
He fucking what?
Firehand is offensive. Kappa.
Why did the Horned Rat give the power to the dumbest one? Fucking how? How did Thanquol get the power? What do you mean?
Thanquol forges the Skaven alliance with Archaon and Chaos, and as the end times reach their zenith, Thanquol alongside his god helps drag Skavenblight into the warp. He did it. He became the Skaven of all time. Now in Age of Sigmar, we didn't have word on Thanquol for a bit, But what we did have eventually was word of a mysterious figure of power and influence, a being known only as the Grey Lord who demanded fear and obedience from his underlings. When we first learn of this being, we're told of a character commanding some pretty powerful people, and surely only a figure of true might could command such respect. And shit, it's Thanquol, isn't it? It's gonna be Thanquol. Thanquol nearly destroyed the
Ain't no fucking way!
city of Hammerhall, which is one of the most important cities for the forces of order in Age of Sigmar. It seems he's finally become the feared and renowned Skaven leader he was always meant to be here. But the flip side of Thanquol being blessed to never die is that he's cursed to never actually win in the end, because just as he made it to AOS, so too did none other than Gotrek Gurnison himself. No Felix, but the dwarf has come back with a vengeance, and now he sees Thanquol as a proper enemy. Thanquol has to freak out to end all freakouts as he learns Gotrek survives, and an uncountable number of years worth of PTSD crashes onto him all at once, and orders the dwarf to be killed immediately. The two clash in the book Blood of the Old World over a realm gate that leads to Warhammer Fantasy, and while Gotrek gets a tearful goodbye with Felix through the rubble and the portal, Thanquol does what he does best and runs the hell away. Now he plots and schemes anew, waiting to once again try and achieve total dominance over all there is. Also, he saved all of Skavenblight from drowning in AOS. He ran away afterwards, though, not only because he was afraid other Skaven figures would have him killed for his success, not only because his plans killed so many Skaven that even the other rat men thought it was excessive, but also because he might have had a part in Skavenblight being flooded to begin with. And also there were zombies as part of the flood. There goes my hero.
Okay. So, let me get this straight. So Thanquol is the dumbest rat. Got the most power from everybody. So not only did he dream of becoming top dog, or top rat in this case, he got that. He became the top rat. But because of how Skavens work, just in general, even if you are the top rat, even if you're chosen by God, they'll still kill you. What the fuck are the Skaven? Where even their own god, they don't even trust their own god. I'm pretty fucking sure that if it was up to a Skaven who ascended to godhood, he would kill the god that basically created all Skaven. Just because it's the Skaven. Like, not even joking around.
For lore positives of Thanquol, all of them. He is the Skaven. If you like Skaven, you should like Thanquol. There's nothing else to be said here. If you as a Skaven player somehow don't like Thanquol, you need to forfeit your Skaven army immediately. Horned Rat casts 10,000 curses of brain explode upon you. But beyond that, if you want an army that will always destroy the enemy, you want Thanquol leading your army. Let's say you somehow play the worst game of Warhammer ever conceived. You don't destroy a single enemy model and get tabled turn 3. Doesn't matter. The aftermath of your tabletop match's lore will be something Thanquol had planned going horribly wrong in a way that causes all of his enemies to simultaneously go insane and then blow up. Thanquol getting a victory isn't the thing you have to worry about. It's how he loses that's going to bring low your enemies. Although, of course, a loss for Thanquol isn't truly a loss.
He pulled the Skaven civilization into the warp, and then caused it to crash out of the warp back into the mortal realm of AOS. Also the flood and zombies ...
He's like, I get that, but at some point you'd think you think that him being blessed by their own god, chosen by their own god, would kind of give them the idea that just like maybe it was a good thing after all. But at this point, it's just like, no, they'll kill him too. And you know what? Fuck it. And I'm pretty sure one of the Skaven would be like, if I were to become god, I'd kill the Horned Rat so I could be the Horned Rat. Oh. Like, what? Like, honestly.
It's just one more setback on the road to endless glory. Know in your heart that when Thanquol has been deployed to the field of battle, he can never truly lose. He simply postpones victory a little while longer. Even if his model is destroyed, it's fine. It's simply one more Bone Ripper to add to the pile as he scurries away.
exactly.
For rules positives and current AOS 4th edition, Thanquol has 8 inches of movement, 14 health, 5 control, and a 4-up save, as well as a 5-up ward save. Surprisingly tanky, even by non-Skaven standards. He's only a power level 2 wizard, which he no doubt finds incredibly insulting, but he rides forth on Bone Ripper to make up for these flaws. Bone Ripper's able to brutalize enemies quite alright. His warp fire projectors are a nice way to get some ranged damage in on an enemy closing in, fairly reliably hitting and being quite reliable at wounding. His fists are a bit less accurate, but wound just as easily and deal 3 damage a pop, while Thanquol hitting you in the face with his magic staff is definitely less reliable, but potentially just as deadly with D3 damage. He's gone berserk in melee throughout his stories, remember, just because he's now old as hell doesn't mean he's any less deadly. As for his special abilities, his staff gives him +1 to casting rolls. Nothing flashy, but always an ability you love to see. He has an inbuilt spell that makes enemies unable to use command.
I'm reading the lore. Hold on. Fueled by an addiction to warpstone and delusional self-confidence, remarkable even for a Skaven, Thanquol is constantly devising new schemes to secure a seat upon the Council of 13. That most of these plans go away is irrelevant. Thanquol is a master at spinning disasters to his advantage, as well as obliterating the bodies and minds of enemies and naysayers with powerful spellcraft. Thanquol is accompanied by all times by a colossal rat ogre that he calls a Bone Ripper.
Then start beating each other to death to deal damage,
They
since it's
literally
flavored
were
as
just
him
like-
causing
they're
madness.
literally just like, yeah, this fucking homeless crackhead, it will probably kill you.
I choose to believe it's his enemies realizing they're facing the mortal realm's most destructive moron and going insane over that. Once per turn during a combat phase, he can inflict anywhere from a D3 to 2d3 mortal damage on a target he's currently fighting, and at the end of a turn, he gets to heal D3 wounds. That first one lets Bone Ripper smash damn near anything he's in melee with into paste, and the last one is just free healing. There's never a time you won't appreciate free healing. For lore downsides, nah, I ain't doing that today. You get no lore downsides with Thanquol from me, I love him too much. As we've already determined, if he loses, it doesn't count, and if you kill him, you only killed Bone Ripper number 40,000. Any further potential downsides you can think of for Thanquol, such
Oh hell yeah, dude! If I were to ever play Warhammer at all, I would just go for I'd just go to Thanquol, because at least I could just be like, yeah, no, he's not dead. You just killed Bone Ripper number 420. He'll be back.
is your army being led by a massive coward who regularly gets his own underlings killed is propaganda slander by the most vile of treacherous minions and rivals, yes. As for tabletop downsides, he is definitely a bit pricey at 360 points. You get a wizard who can kick ass in melee and regenerate for the cost, so I'd say you're definitely getting your money's worth, but just beware that if he goes down, nearly a quarter of a 2k point army is going with him. This next one, meanwhile, is more of a piece of advice than a downside, but I wouldn't recommend charging him headfirst into the center of your enemy's army just because he can kick ass. A D3 of healing and a decent save only counts for so much when everyone looks at him and begins beating his ass. On a semi-related note, as a big old monster unit, he can also be vulnerable to being tar-pitted, so try and make sure he doesn't spend the entire match failing to finish off a bunch of goblins or something like that. You'll feel very silly after that happens. He loses attacks as he takes wounds as well, but that's pretty standard for monstrous units in Warhammer. Just something to be aware of. And that was Grey Seer Thanquol. Amongst the Skaven, none shine brighter than he, because for miles around, the world can see his screw-up shining as bright as a star. Thank you as always to my wonderful channel members. You are the Bone Ripper to my Thanquol, providing me invaluable support no matter how much I hit you in the face with a stick. If you'd like to support the channel, feel free to...
Even within his tabletop fighting, he's got to be the funniest fucking unit to even use. Like at that point, I don't think you could ever get mad. If you use Thanquol as your main commander, then 100% I do seriously believe that you just don't get mad at losing, like at all.
Subscribe or become a member. Either way, thank you for watching and take care out there.
That was a fun one. I do like learning about the fucking rat people. I fucking love the rats. They're great. And learning about them was also really fun to do. But yeah, that was Thanquol, the horned rats, funny, silent, silly, funny, silliest clown thing fighting his toughest, hardest battle fights. That was a really fun one to like learn about. Thanquol is got to be now my favorite character in the Warhammer fantasy universe, because holy shit, I'd never heard of a character that was rewarded for his failures as well as able to get away in such a cartoonish fucking way.
To show the stream and the video viewers what was so bad that you saw in the middle of the video. The thing that
Oh.
was racist from Games Workshop.
This is a short that the same person who recommended me the Thanquol video to see, because this is the darkest point of it, and we're just gonna look at this real quick just as a little bit of an extra.
This Warhammer army was removed for being racist. These are the Pygmies, a Warhammer fantasy army released in 1992. They were based directly on harmful stereotypes of African tribal cultures, exaggerated features, and savage headhunter tropes lifted straight from old colonial era imagery. They only ever got one supplement and a handful of miniatures. No plastic kit,
Bro,
no
you
support, and
can't.
Games Workshop
hell
never
no.
revisited them.
Can't
Most
do
fans
that. Like even for the time and era that this came out in, they have to have seen this and just been like, yeah, no, this is our bad. Like, we're sorry, we didn't mean to do that. Like, and not like, I would think, you know, before on the writing board they looked at this, they had to have looked at this and been like, I don't think this is gonna be a good thing to do, dude. Like, this is like if halflings were racist. Like, holy shit, that's bad. It's so bad. Holy fuck. Holy shit, dude.
assume that's exactly why the design was a product of its time and not a good one.
Yeah,
No statement,
but the
no retcon,
British
no
guys in the
acknowledgement.
white
They were just quietly dropped from the
and
range and never mentioned again. Did you know this part
Their names are even terrible too. They're just onomatopoeias of grunting. Og, ook.
about Warhammer history? Let me know in the comments. This Warhammer army was removed for being racist.
Being racist.
That is crazy. Being professional at being racist is shade. This is competitive. This is what they were talking about when they were going from casual racism to competitive racism. This is competitive racism. This is gold. This is like gold ranking racism, dude. Like, that is fucking crazy. That is probably master maybe, because holy shit, I've never seen something like that bad. That is terrible. But thank you very much for coming by. I really do appreciate it. That was Thanquol and a little bit of extra shorts that we saw. Again, we'll be doing more content. If you guys want to see more content like this, please go on ahead and recommend to me any videos in the comments below. And as well as if you'd like to see more Yuffie content, you can go on ahead and subscribe. You can also follow me at twitch.tv/Yuffie. As well as I also have, if you want to read a comic too, I have it on my Patreon, Pixiv, Webtoons, and Tapas, where you can also support me on my Patreon, where all money goes into getting more pages for the comic, as well as other projects that I'm doing, as well as my streaming. So yeah, but thank you very much for coming by. Like it, subscribe, I guess. But thank you very much for coming by. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Mwah. I love you all. Bye, everybody.